Hi there, welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, I want to build off of the last video where I talked about making a schedule, a plan for your classes, for your language learning. So many times people are actually pretty diligent with their language learning. They're just not quite sure how to approach it. And so what they do is they go to class and they follow whatever the teacher is giving them, and that tends to work out pretty good for most people. But sometimes the class that you're going to doesn't really hit on the 4 aspects of language, and so you might get pretty good at some things and not so good at other things. You might feel strong and lacking at the same time. So we want to make sure we bring all 4 aspects of language, reading, writing, speaking, and listening, into the learning process so we get good at all of those things. Now, in the previous video, I outlined what a month-long schedule could look like. Feel free to watch that if you haven't, to get an idea of how you can plan your learning. This is actually a really great tool for self-study. So I want to give you an example of what that month-long plan might look and feel like for you. So in the last video, I gave the example of cooking. I think having a theme for the month is a great idea because it'll keep giving you repeated vocabulary, phrases, sometimes grammar over and over again. It'll reinforce all of that and make it more second nature for you over time. So let's talk about cooking again. So you're gonna have some days that you focus on speaking. So what should you do on a speaking day when you're learning? If you can get a tutor or a partner to help you with the language, that would be an excellent time to focus on speaking. My guess is that that person is not available to you every single day. So if you have a plan in place, then it'll be easy to say, like, every Monday, let's meet from like 4 to 5 o'clock and we can practice. And then if that person is, say, like a low-skilled teacher, so they might not have their own curriculum, but they're able to help you with the language. Maybe they're like a native speaker who isn't an actual teacher, something like that. Totally fine. You can tell that person, this month I'm working on cooking language and I really want to practice that. So then when you go to your speaking days and you practice with that person, you can stay focused on the target, the topic that you have for the month. And it'll make things much easier and satisfying for you, and it'll feel like for that person that they really are helping you achieve a specific goal. So again, if you can get some kind of a tutor or language partner, that would be an ideal time for a speaking day. If you are completely by yourself and you don't have anybody else, you can try talking to yourself. You just won't have a feedback loop to know if you're doing it correctly or not, but you could just like talk to the air if you want. I know some people do that, and it is helpful just to get your mind working in the language. So even though you don't have the feedback loop, you are getting the practice of just producing the language. So there is some value to that. Another thing you could do on a speaking focus day, if you're by yourself, is you can use your phone and record yourself. Some people will find that super embarrassing. You don't have to show it to anybody, but the idea is I want you to get used to speaking, and then what you can do is save these videos and over time go back and watch old videos, and you can see how much you've improved. And that's actually really helpful for students to see that over time. You might feel like it's always work, but then if you go back to an older video of yourself and you're like, wow, I really have improved a lot, that would be good. Also, in the process of watching a video, say right after you make it or the next day, you can spot some tendencies that you have, because most people don't hear themselves talk in the moment, and they definitely can't see their own face in the moment. So when you go back and you watch yourself, you will be able to self-diagnose better what you want to work on. So that can be super helpful too. Okay, let's move on to listening days. On listening days, what you can do, really fun and easy, watch a TV show. So if you are, say, on the theme of cooking for the month, you can pick out a cooking show that you want to watch. And there are so many cooking shows, and it's kind of fun to watch this stuff. Also, like on YouTube, there are a ton of cooking shows now. So you can even do this for free. You don't even have to pay for a streaming service. You can watch an American, a British, an Australian, or whoever, person, if you're learning English, do their own cooking show on YouTube, and you can enjoy it as you're watching. That is absolutely a listening activity that you can take advantage of. And then as you're doing this, if there are any interesting words or phrases that you want to remember or start using yourself when it comes time to your own speaking or your own writing, jot those down so you have something to refer to and work on. So next we will have reading days. So if you have the theme of cooking, what you can do is find a cooking blog to read. So many people who like cooking, this is their hobby, or maybe they've turned it into a business by now. And what they do is they like experimenting with recipes or developing their own recipes. And then what they'll do is they'll share their recipes on their blog. But before they have the recipe, they usually have a write-up about what it is they're making, why they like to make it, some things to think about in terms of picking out ingredients and making sure everything works out beautifully. They'll give a little description of the meal before they actually share the recipe. So on a reading day, you could go to the cooking blog, the recipe blog, and you can read through it there, okay? And again, in there, if you see any new language that you would like to start to use, jot those down as reference so that way you can bring that into your speaking and your writing activities. And then on your writing focused days, you can make your own blog posts. So are there things that you like to cook or that you would like to cook but you have never tried? That can be a blog post where you do the write-up about the food and then you share the recipe. And this can also be awesome for things from your country that you would like people who speak and read in your target language to know about. That would be an awesome cultural exchange activity. If, say, you tend to not cook yourself or you don't feel comfortable with it, what you can do is write up about something that you saw or read about. So in the earlier days, you may have watched a cooking show and read a cooking blog. So then on your writing day, you can use that time to reflect on a specific dish that you saw being prepared or read about and what you think about that dish. If you think it sounds delicious, if not, why not? If yes, go for it. Maybe there's an ingredient in there that you think is kind of weird or that you've never tried before. You can reflect on that too. You could also turn this into a creative exercise where you write a short story about experiencing that dish and what it's like for you. Maybe you did have this before, so it could be a memoir, personal experience. If you've never tried it, you can imagine and then write what your imagination tells you. Another thing to remember is that even though on each day you're going to focus on one of those four things, speaking, listening, reading, or writing, in reality, you might have other aspects of the language showing up secondarily. So if, say, you're on a listening day and you're watching TV, you're watching this cooking show, and you find yourself whispering certain things to yourself, then you're starting to practice some speaking, even though there's no audience for you to hear you. It's completely fine. You can do that. It would be a way to practice what you're hearing. In the speaking day, obviously, if you have a tutor and you're talking to somebody else, you're also going to be listening to that person. So in addition to your speaking, you're also going to be listening. So none of these things have to be in complete isolation. We just want to make sure that we're designating time for all four of these things, so that way we do give them enough practice in the learning process. So I'm curious to hear what your themes might be for your months. Another thing I'll mention very quickly is that sometimes people have a specific goal, like they want to be able to write an essay and write it really well. Your theme for the month or the quarter, like 3 months of the year, could be essay writing. And then you can apply this same strategy of the 4 topics throughout the month. You can apply that to essay writing too, because for speaking, you might want to talk to your tutor or your friend about how to do it. For listening, you might find videos of people explaining how to write an excellent essay. For reading, you might find books that tell you how to do this well. And writing, well, you can practice writing it yourself. And honestly, when you write your own essay, you're constantly rereading it anyway, so that's reading and writing at the same time. So don't feel like your topic has to be non-language learning related, because sometimes when we want to really get good at something in the language, we will absolutely use all 4 of these things to help us get good at that one thing. So food for thought, another way you can make this schedule work towards your language learning goals. So please leave me some feedback in the comments. I would love to hear what themes you're interested in, and if you've tried a schedule like this and how it worked out. Also, if you have a different schedule that you like to follow, please let me know that too. I will see you in the next class. Bye-bye.